All right, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here, so welcome back. We've got a little more news on patch 1.61. Aside from the really cryptic tweet that War Thunder gave out, we actually have a little bit of information on some upcoming vehicles. Yesterday, we saw the Brumbar, and a lot of you guys were excited for that. Other than the fact that it was premium, and the KV2's not, but we won't get into that. But we're going to be talking about the M60A1. So over a year ago on War Thunder in patch 1.5.1, we saw the M60 patent put into the game in patch 1.51. The last time I covered it on the channel was in July of 2015, first covering June 21st of 2015. So it has been a while since we've already seen the M60 in the game. Now we're getting the M60A1, which I think for all intents and purposes is interesting, but it's not all that much different. But let's see what the dev blog has to say about it, and you guys can make up your own decisions, your own opinions on the matter. So, in the very first years of the M60's use, it was determined that the thorough modernization of the base M48A2 model on a tight schedule had led to the creation of a vehicle that was incapable of competently opposing tanks of a potential enemy. Russian, but no, just kidding. The armor protection of the M60's turret, which had remained practically unchanged relative to the M48, could not withstand a hit from a 100mm Soviet tank cannon, a la T-54s. For this reason, in 1962, the Chrysler Company set to work creating a new model of the M60 main battle tank, the M60A1. The primary distinguishing feature of this new vehicle was its use of an improved turret with steeper sloping angles on its frontal parts. At the same time, the armor protection on the frontal projection was increased to 254mm without the gun mantlet. The turret was equipped with a command cupola that rotated 360 degrees with 8 glass blocks placed around the perimeter for an all-around view. With the installation of this turret model, the crew conditions inside the battle compartment were also improved. Alongside this, the designers introduced changes to the fire control system, installing upgraded instruments that would allow the crew to fire at nighttime. After 1965, keep note of these dates, but we already know where we're going in War Thunder, the M60A1 additionally received the latest M16 ballistic computer. Even the tank's control systems were modified. Apart from the new equipment and instruments, an improved hydraulic brake actuation was installed for the powertrain. Does that mean we get a handbrake, this bad boy? I don't know. Along with a mechanical stopping brake. The suspension received telescopic shock absorbers on the lower track rollers, but the improvement of the M60A1 didn't stop there. The American leadership was forced to introduce new modernization programs at speed due to the appearance of new models of armored vehicles in the United Soviet Socialist Republics. So, what does that mean, right? That was a lot of historical tidbits. From what I gathered, if sim battles was more of a thing, the commander's cupola has pretty good view. So in sim battles, I think a lot of these things that are weaknesses in RB and AB battles are actually strengths, because vision and information and the speed at which you're able to see the enemy is one of the most important things. So the primary distinguishing feature of this new vehicle was its use of an improved turret. You got your 254mm, right? There's no gun mantlet. In War Thunder, the M60A1 will take its place at the top U.S. tank in the medium tank tree. If the basic M60 was a well-balanced tank with good weaponry, a fast reload speed, and comparatively good armor, then the A1 version allows the player to play more aggressively without fear, or let's say with less fear of direct hits from enemy shells on many sections of the armor, primarily on the turret. Thanks to the increased thickness and angles of the armor, the shells of many tanks, including the Tovarish 54, can ricochet right off the frontal projection without injuring the crew or damaging internal modules. So this is all the stuff that's on the dev blog. This is how it has been written for us to appease the masses. Does it appease you? As before, the vehicle can use the classic tactics of a medium tank, taking advantage of its maneuverability and armament for flanking maneuvers or quick position changes. The M60A1 also provides the opportunity to extend your, quote, life, end quote, on the battlefield and increase your tank's effectiveness, as it is far harder to knock the tank out with a frontal strike from medium or long range. Similarly, it is harder to destroy it with a random shot against the turret. The opponent must spend precious seconds aiming, and the player can use this time for a counterattack or retreat. Basically, what they just described is what you encounter when you play the Chieftain Mark III, what I think is the best looking tank in War Thunder, definitely at tier 5. It's the best tier 5 looking tank in War Thunder, in my opinion. That thing only's got Hesh rounds and Sabo rounds. And it's really sad that it only has those rounds available to it, because while it may be historical in-game, Sabo rounds aren't good at tier 5. But that's kind of a discussion. And it's a little off topic, but I mean, you got to really consider what rounds your opponents are using, and especially when countered with the rounds you're using. So while we have this footage of the M60, not the M60A1 that we've gone over in this dev blog, but the M60 from over a year ago, which is kind of nuts to think. I was going to say it's been a while since they made an improvement or another version, especially if, the M60 is kind of the top of the American tree. But you could make a lesser counter argument that the KV2 has different variants, and it took well over a year for that to come out. But when you consider the top tier, but then again, the Americans and Russians are generally the nations that do the best, given, what we have available in the game. But one of the vehicles that I didn't cover the other day that came out on a dev blog was the P47N. This is a bolt from the blue, so I'll cover that dev blog, but I want you guys to discuss in the comments below. Let's start a productive discussion, not one of those, ragey or just silly or just no concrete points, but an actual discussion as to, do you think the M60A1 is needed? It's an interesting change. It's a slightly better, and it's the top tier, so maybe it will allow the Americans to go better head-to-head against the Russians in this game. But anyway, moving onwards to the P47, we still don't have any Razorbacks, and from what I understand, that's one of the big fan favorites or big fan requests since maybe the beginning of War Thunder. So a new edition is coming to War Thunder very soon. The first P47, Series N anyway, fighter to appear in the game. The most up-to-date version of all the series-produced Thunderbolt fighters. Meet the incredibly fast and powerful P47N-15. So kind of like the M60, you have a vehicle that's already in the game for the Americans, but now you get what is quintessentially the best version of it. Many successful aircraft underwent a long journey of thorough modernization during the Second World War. Go America! The American P-47 was no exception, far from the first, but the most mass-produced and recognizable of its versions was the D series, with its bubble canopy and rounded wingtips. But work on improving the aircraft didn't stop there. As early as 1943, the Republic Company was creating the new and, as it turned out, most accomplished version of the P-47 series, designated Model N. Work began on the P-47N due to a desire in the U.S. force to obtain a modern long-range escort fighter to protect those B-17s. By the end of the war, with the arrival of North American Aviation's P-51D, Republic was rightly afraid that the new aircraft would force the American leadership to review its priorities and remove the P-47D from production. The latter had excelled speed only at a great altitude, whilst its range was insufficient for command's new requirements. So basically, internal fighting and competition with companies, but nowhere near as bad as the Japanese Army and Japanese Navy. Those guys fought tooth and nail, and they ended up losing. Unity is necessary. for an honorable victory. Having received the confidence of the government and a state grant, Republic directed all its efforts into developing a new wing for the P-47. As a result, it received additional fuel tanks, a greater aileron area, and slightly truncated wingtips to improve its banking maneuverability. At the same time, the wingspan was increased and the landing gear was also spaced further apart. And initially, the prototype was equipped with a Pratt & Whitney R2857 engine, which in the N-15 was replaced with the updated R2873. In its trials, the aircraft exceeded all the experts' expectations. The P-47N surpassed its predecessor, the D, in all respects. The new model's chief advantage was its speed. The first series produced models showed results higher than 466 miles per hour, and for everybody else in the world, that's 750 kilometers per hour. So 200 units of the P-47N-15 were built, and they proved their mettle in battle. Very soon, they will have the chance to do the same in War Thunder. Are you excited? Are you not entertained? The aircraft will be at rank 4 in the game, since this aircraft is a development of the legendary P-47D, which is the pew-pew machine when you're doing RB tank battles and you're fighting the Americans and you get killed by. That's what that is. It is sure to be appreciated by fans of boom and zoom tactics and flybys. And this one comes with bazookas, much like many of the American planes do. But you gotta love bazookas sticking out from under the wings of an American plane. How American. The aircraft stands out not only for its excellent speed, but also for its impressive energy conservation. It's green. After any maneuvers, the P-47N has a high mass, and accordingly it moves best under inertia. Don't stall it out, or you're boned. The new fighter model is one of the fastest piston engine aircraft in the game. The Thunderbolt can now compete with the even the latter P-51 and Focke-Wulf 190 aircraft in a match of speed. The increased maneuverability and controllability at high speeds provide better combat effectiveness and a greater hit ratio for each of its attacks. We're sure that the new P-47N-15 will be to your liking. If not, gulag. So that was a little bit on the dev blog. We had 2 videos yesterday, a World of Warships post for Warships Wednesday. Today is Thursday, if you didn't check your calendars or phones. Yeah, everyone's got smartphones nowadays. But yeah, so 2 posts yesterday. Both were very well received. People are very excited for the Brumbar. I don't think there's going to be near as much hype surrounding the P-47N-15 unless you're a prop head or you just like bazookas. It does look pretty sleek. Or the M60A1, because they're not like different, but I think they're both very good for, helping the Americans compete. And let's be honest, the best thing that Americans are doing is winning the Super Bowl uncontested, guys, since the history of the Super Bowl. I just want to point that out. But in all seriousness, I think it's a good change. But I think the M60A1 could have came sooner. And the Brits need a lot more help at Tier 5 tanks than the Americans do. I'll say that. But anyway, I'll keep my thoughts to myself. No, I won't. This is my channel. And that's what's going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the second video for today. We're going to try to keep it a little bit shorter. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Friday. Do we have any themed videos for Friday? I don't know. Probably not. Or do we?